Welcome to the Mel Robbins podcast.
Dream come true. Thank you for having me, Mel.
It's a dream come true because more than anyone else, I'm going to start crying and we're talking about more than anyone else, you have really taught me how to overcome fear and resistance and put art out into the world. You have taught me everything I know about how I think about making an impact with people and communicating and marketing and having courage. And I'm really proud that you're here because our company, 143 Studios, and this podcast is run by people who are students of yours. I can't wait to see the impact that this conversation has on absolutely anyone and everyone that listens to it, that watches it. It is my mission that together we ignite a bonfire inside someone's soul. And they not just listen, but they do something with it.
Thank you. One of the measures of my work is not what happens if I teach somebody, it's what they teach other people. And you have taught so many millions of people. And it's just a thrill to be in the same room with you.
All right. I think let's do this.
There we go.
As you say, let's make a ruckus. What could be different about my life if I take everything to heart that you're about to teach and share with me today and the person who's listening and watching right now? What could change?
If you think about whatever situation you're in, whether it's at work or at home, is there anything you could do to make it worse? Is there anything you could tell yourself, a story you could tell yourself, or an act you could accomplish that would make it worse? And I think we can all agree the answer is, of course. Well, by that measure, then there are things you can do to make it better. And you can make it better by choosing intentionally a strategy. And maybe we can rewire the story we're telling ourselves and not be a victim or a cog in an existing system, but build something that's generative and makes things better for people who care. And that might sound like a tall order, but if we can make things worse much without hardly any effort, we can probably make things better as well.
I've never really thought about it that way. That is true. Like if you just really ponder that question, how could I make my life worse? I could come up with 100 things that would make it way worse today.
Yeah.
And yet we do not really stop and think about the endless ways that you could make your life, your work, your relationships better. Given how many people you have taught, given how many people who have been impacted by your work, just to open up the aperture of possibility for somebody, what are some of the wide-ranging things that people have made better by embracing so many of the concepts that we're about to dig into today?
It's tempting to just, point to numbers and, what did you grow? How big was your organization? But I think it all starts at home. It all starts with the first noise we hear in our head when we wake up and the last thing we say to someone we care about when we go to bed. And all of that is fueled by the story we tell ourselves, the story of being a victim or the story of being an architect, the story of saying, that person, that one right across the table from me, under the circumstances, they are doing their very best. I can't change them, but I can change the circumstances. And so we begin by realizing that people who have had much worse things happen to them than you or to me or to you have somehow figured out a way to thrive given where they are right now. Because the only place to begin is where you are. If you're waiting to get to somewhere else before you begin, you're never going to get there. We have to start where we are, acknowledge what's happening right around us, and then make a choice. Make a choice about whether we want to change things or whether we want them to stay the same. But you're only a victim if you want to be.
I don't think anyone likes to hear you're only a victim if you want to be.
Well, let me be really clear. I won the birthday lottery. I won the parent lottery. I was born with, so many advantages compared to people around me or people through the ages. There are people right now who are in relationships that are abusive. They're in debt up to their eyeballs. They're dealing with physical or mental disabilities. All of those things are true. And then what are you going to do? Right? And then what are you going to do? So I'm using the word victim very carefully here. I'm not saying that bad things don't happen. They do. They often happen to people who don't deserve it. What I'm saying is, how should we process what just happened? Should we add a but or an and, right? I'm on vacation, but it's raining means my vacation is ruined. But if it's, I'm on vacation and it's raining, it means I've opened up the door to, now what am I going to do with that?
Can you give me a couple other examples of the power of but versus and?
Those words do a lot of heavy lifting in many sentences, in many stories we tell ourselves, right? I want this person to have exactly the wedding they want, but I also want it to fit into my budget and be the wedding I want. Well, that word but is doing a lot of heavy lifting. And this is one of the key things that's unlocked with the let them theory, which is you can let people do things, but you can't have your but at the same time. You can't have your and at the same time. There are things that are in front of us that are problems, and there are things that are in front of us that are situations. Problems have solutions. Situations do not. So if it's a situation, we have no choice but to accept it because it has no solution. But if it's a problem, it can be solved. You might not like the solution, but it can be solved. And so my takeaway from your brilliant book is if that person's going to do what they're going to do, I can treat it like a situation. I can have a big fight about it. Or I can realize they're going to do what they're going to do. And my solution to the problem is to let them.
What is the difference between a solution and a situation? Because I was sitting here going, a situation is something that you can't change or control. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. So I trained as a mechanical engineer years and years ago in college. You can't rewrite the laws of physics. You can't be in two cities at the same time. You can't persuade a company to buy something from you if they don't want to buy it from you. Those are situations. Problems have solutions. You just might not like them in the short run. But there is a way forward if you're willing to accept an outcome that isn't the one you've been dreaming of. And so what I'm trying to do is let you off the hook if it's a situation. Okay, I can't change this, but that means I have to accept it. Or put you on the hook if it's a problem and say, yeah, if this is a problem, I might not like the solution. I have a solution in mind that I don't want to do, but I know what I could do. I just don't like it. It's still a solution.
Breakups, taking better care of yourself, sticking to a budget, putting yourself out there and risking the, judgment of other people. These are all problems, but they have a solution. We just don't want to do it.
Yeah. So a simple technical one. If you're willing to have an uncomfortable conversation with your boss for 15 minutes a year, you'll make more money. Because in those 15 minutes, you can share your honest truth about where you are and where you want to go. But if it's too much trouble and too scary to do that, then you should settle for what you have. So the solution to salary negotiation is there's probably going to be an awkward conversation. The same thing's true if your spouse loads the dishwasher in a way that you find really annoying. But you want them to just know that. You don't want to go through the 10 minutes of hassle to talk about it. Well, we know what the solution is. Tell the truth. Have a respectful conversation, offering the other person empathy, but letting them hear what you need to say. You've solved the problem. It just wasn't fun to solve the problem.
Well, most problems aren't all that fun to solve until you solve them.
The easy ones are already gone. Yeah.
That's true. So you talked about noise. And one of the things that your work has taught me is just how much resistance I was manufacturing and putting in my own way. And when you first bump into your work, Seth, it can feel very confronting. And you start to read Seth's stuff and you're like, but who the hell does it? Solutions, problems, noise. He has no idea. And then you start to really consider all of the resistance that you have to that list of things that you can generate that would make a situation better. I would love to just start to pull that apart because that's had the single biggest impact on me is really being truthful with myself about how much I am in my own way and how much I blame my stuff on other people and other things when it's really none of those things at all.
The word resistance means anything that we do to get in our own way to keep us from doing something that's going to scare us. And so let's talk about writer's block. Writer's block was only invented 100 years ago. We know who named it, the woman who wrote Frankenstein's ne'er-do-well poet husband. And writer's block is based on the idea that you just don't have the muse telling you what to write today. This is nonsense. There's no such thing as writer's block. What happens is if it feels important, if writing a memo feels important, if painting something feels important, if going on a date with someone you've always wanted to go on a date with and it's tomorrow night feels important, we do something internally to insulate ourselves, to protect ourselves, to keep us from being on the hook. Because we got indoctrinated by school to do that, because factory workers don't have to be on the hook. They just have to do what they're told. But it's also, I think, part of human nature. And resistance then is something that we cannot make go away. If we're going to do something important, there's going to be resistance. If you don't feel resistance, it might not be important enough. So the question then is, what do you do when it shows up? And the answer is you say, thank you. Thanks for letting me know I'm on the verge of doing something important. Thanks for reminding me that this needs to be on the top of my priority list. The things I'm procrastinating because of resistance. And so I now have a compass, and the compass points me to the hard work to be done. And hard work, I think, is worth talking about for a minute. Hard work in the old days was how many pounds of gravel can you carry on your back, because we don't have any machines. But now hard work is, did I come up with a solution that's not on the list of solutions? Did I tell the truth in a way that the other person could hear? Did I make a good decision? Did I write something that's never been written before, sing something that's never been sung before, paint something that's never been painted before? That's our job. And so when we think about how do we engage with our family, well, if we're just going to, put the stuff in the microwave oven, check all the boxes, and then sit down and watch 3 hours of streaming every night, you're fitting in. You're making all the companies happy, but you're not facing the resistance, which is, what is the work that needs to be done that I'm afraid of?
Why is doing the work that you're afraid of doing the secret to a more fulfilling life? Because you could mistake the word work for something related to your career or something that is on your to-do list. But I know that you're talking about something at a way more fundamental level,
right?
That is about your experience of being alive,
yes,
and your experience of yourself as you're going through this life. So can we go deeper into what that means, what the work is?
I don't know anybody who wants to spend the rest of their life sitting on a beach, having a waiter bring them Mai Tais every day. You're not allowed to do anything else. I think that would drive almost everyone crazy. When we have a chance to be productive in whatever form that is, whether or not we are getting paid for it, we have a chance to be fully alive. It could be the pottery you make in your spare time, or the way you are raising your kids. It could be the fact that you volunteer at the local animal shelter. That's work. You're doing it because the work needs to be done, and doing it well is gratifying. There's a magical side effect. And the side effect is this gratifying life translates into a whole bunch of side effects, like more respect, like more independence, like more resilience in the bank, because the universe can't wait for people to show up who do good work. They will line up outside your door and offer you friendship or respect or even money if you are the person who's willing to do the things other people are afraid to do.
One of the things that is interesting is that if you think about something that you know is important to you, whether it's cleaning out the attic now that the kids are gone, nobody else seems to care about, but this just nags at you, or it's really writing down all your grandmother's recipes and self-publishing a cookbook, or it's starting that store on Etsy, or it's volunteering at the community gardens. There is this nagging thing that is inside each and every one of us that we just shove away and shut down. And what you're talking about is that the resistance that you feel, because the things that are important don't go away. There is no amount of busyness that takes that kind of, it's an ache in there away. And so you're talking about and giving us this permission to really look at it differently. It's not a to-do. It is some of the most important things that you could force yourself to spend time on. Why is the personal nature of that nagging book you want to write, that YouTube channel you want to start, the side business that you keep dreaming about? What is that that thing actually about, Seth?
Okay, 2 words. You ready?
Yes.
Pick yourself. The dominant system does not want you to pick yourself. The dominant system wants you to wait to be invited to go on a reality show, to be invited to apply for a job. They want you to go to the placement office and wait for the company to come interview you. The idea that someone else will pick you and authorize you. They will call you up and they say, Mel, we know you have a novel in you. Would you please write the novel and we will publish it? And I'm speaking from experience here. I've talked to thousands of people in this very situation who have a book inside of them. And my advice to them is it's simple. Make it into a PDF, email it to 20 people, ask them to share it with others for free. If it spreads, your phone will ring and now you can get hired to write another one. If it doesn't spread, write something better. The end. And almost no one does this because it's really awkward to say, yeah, I picked myself. I wrote this here. I made this. And those 4 words, here, I made this, are so challenging, right? That it's easier to buy a cookbook and follow the recipe than to invent something you're going to serve to people you care about. And so if we can find a life where we can identify the things that are important to us, truly important to us, and then pick ourselves, not to do the work to win a prize or get a medal, but because we have agency, because we could, the word for that is freedom. It is the responsibility of showing up to make a thing and offering it to the world. It might just be your family that notices the attic is clean, but you realize that you hired yourself to clean the attic. Don't wait till you're going to sell the house and the realtor hires you to clean the attic. You hired yourself to clean the attic. And that sort of freedom and responsibility, that's where dignity lies. And everyone I've ever met wants more dignity in their life.
Why is there so much resistance to picking yourself? Why are we waiting for someone else to come along, Seth, and be like, hey, you should write that book. Hey, you should quit your job. Hey, I think you should start that business. Hey, have you ever thought about getting out of that relationship? Hey, you should ask your family to help you out a little bit more.
Life is high school, isn't it?
It is.
And high school taught us a whole bunch at a very important moment of our life. And the people who got by, who seemed the safest, weren't the ones who were picking themselves. They were the ones who were sort of hiding out in a uniform, hiding out in an attitude, hiding out in a clique, hiding out in a group, hiding out in a mob. And so the system wants us to hide out. It's much easier to sell you Lunchables and to sell you the next thing on television if you are part of the crowd. And so we have to do some work to unteach this to ourselves. And that's one of the magical things about sharing this podcast. Because when you say to a friend, I'm going to start acting this way, listen to this, hold me accountable. You picked yourself, but you now picked someone to hold you accountable as well. And the cycle can continue. That one of the things we notice is that when you are a part of a scene, whether that scene is jazz musicians in Chicago in 1964 or Silicon Valley entrepreneurs 10 years ago, you want to fit in with the group, the scene you are a part of. So if the scene you're a part of isn't getting you where you want to go, build a different one. Build a different circle of people who ask each other hard questions about their relationships, about the books they're reading, about the books they're writing, about whatever it is you want to make, because we become who we hang out with and what they expect of us.
I believe it's a fact that there's something about the hard wiring of a human being that is a fundamental need tied to growth, tied to learning, tied to connection and expressing yourself. And no matter how busy you get, no matter how much you drink, no matter how much money you make, no matter how broke you may get, you will still never outrun the things that are uniquely meant for you to do during this lifetime. They just have this kind of magical way of haunting you. And so that presents you with this choice. Do I sit knowing deep down there's some change I want to make? There's some way I want myself or my world or my family to be better. There's something I want to do. There's people I want to find. But instead of doing it, I am going to sit with the resistance that slowly is killing me as I think about it and actively deny or talk myself out of it. One of the things that I see a lot, Seth, when people write in is somebody will write in and say, I've changed my life. I've lost some weight. I'm exercising. I feel incredible. I've started journaling every day. I'm also now selling this new skincare line, or I got my realtor's license. My partner hates what I'm doing. They're not supportive at all. So can you talk a bit about the noise and the resistance that comes from the people around you and what to do with it? If one of the reasons why you're not making the change you want to make is because of that outside pressure.
So when in doubt, look for the fear. There are three things that motivate people: fear, affiliation, and status. So let's do them in reverse order. Status is who eats lunch first, who's up and who's down, what kind of car you're driving. Is your desk closer to the boss's? Are you mom's favorite kid? Status. Affiliation is who's to my left, who's to my right. Am I wearing the right outfit? Is my hair the right style? Am I wearing the right glasses? Do I fit in? And between those two, underlying both, is fear. It starts, of course, with the fear of death, because we're all going to die. But it extends to a million things. We've figured out how to hook almost everything up to fear. So the people who are around you, who care about you, are afraid. So are you. And that fear might involve not knowing the person you're about to become. That fear might involve catastrophizing what might happen if the world changed. But here's the thing, Mel. The world is really crazy right now. And this is as normal as it is ever going to be again. If you're waiting for things to get back to normal, you're going to be waiting a very long time. And so given that change is happening, whether you like it or not, the question is, should we take agency and control and influence of that, or should we sit back and just wait? And so the people who you are listening to, who you are modeling your behavior around, they mean really well. Under the circumstances, they love you and they care about you, but the circumstances determine everything. And the circumstances involve everything we've been taught, everything we've been led to expect, and the systems we're all part of. And if it's working for you, don't change anything. But if it's not working for you, then we get back to the and but thing. If it's not working for you, you have to decide if it's not working bad enough that you're willing to deal with the short-term resistance and challenges to change it. And you're not guaranteed it's going to work out the way you hope, but you are guaranteed that you can influence it.
So in the instance of somebody who has changed their lifestyle, they're now healthier, maybe they've cut back on the drinking, they're getting up earlier, their spouse is sleeping in, it feels like they're growing a little bit apart. If we use the but and, you could say, I'm getting healthier and I'm feeling great and I'm making positive changes, but my spouse doesn't like it. Versus, I'm getting healthier, I'm making positive changes, I'm feeling much better, and my spouse doesn't like it.
And if it's the second one,
yeah,
now you owe your relationship something, because your spouse can't fix this problem by themselves. Because if they could, they already would have. So you can just announce it's a situation and live with it. Or you could say, what would it mean for me to really see my spouse, to really see their fear, to really understand how they might feel rejected or denigrated by the fact that I'm doing this thing that they secretly would like to do but can't? How can I put effort into helping them feel the firm foundation that our relationship has when it's at its best? And there are lots of ways to do that, but none of them are guaranteed. But if you don't work at it, it's probably not going to work very well.
Well, I love just the simplicity of but and, because when you say but, now all of a sudden it means the spouse is the reason you got to stop doing it, or they're the biggest reason why it's hard for you. When you say and, you basically separate yourself and them, and you hold space for both things to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore they don't become the excuse. They just become one of the problems or the facts of what you're dealing with. And now you can decide how you're going to make this better.
Correct. That's exactly right.
It's super easy.
So if you think about the marathon,
yes,
we're in Boston.
Okay.
Some people run the Boston Marathon and make it 24 miles and then they stop. And some people finish it. And the only difference between the people who finish the marathon and the people who almost finished the marathon is the people who finish the marathon figure out where to put the tired. They're both tired, right? But if you quit at 24, you can't handle all the tired. You got to stop. But the difference is the people who make it to 26, they're tired too. They just figure out where to put it. So if you go to a running coach and say, I want to run the marathon, you don't get to say, and I want to finish without getting tired. Not allowed. You have to say, I'm going to run the marathon and I'm going to get tired, and I need to be able to do both. So this idea that forward motion, changing your appearance or your life, it comes with a form of tired that goes with it. Where are you going to put it? How are you going to put in the effort to get good at dealing with the effects